So what we do is we're going to get the heads off them. There's a couple of ways to do it. Basically, depending upon your project. If you're going to do a full reroot, like what we're going to do with her, it doesn't matter how you take it off, because you don't have to worry about the hair. However, I did just notice that she does have eyelashes. And I am trying to tell if they are rooted or if they're glued, and I'm pretty sure that they are rooted. So in theory, anything we do to her probably isn't going to harm them. So for her, I would take water just as hot as I could stand it, and sometimes hotter than that, because you try to keep your hands out of it. We got to pretend we don't have a faucet in here, but basically it's all straightforward. You put them under the faucet, you let the water run onto the vinyl around the neck hole, and you just do that for, again, you can start to feel the vinyl soften. You'll squeeze her head a little bit and see where she's at. And when you think it started a little bit, you start to give it a tug. And again, she might be fine to just pop it off, because Omar's the expert at head removal, and he'll just, pop his Barbies apart. Some of them take a little bit, especially Jem, because Jem has a neck knob that the head rests on. And that neck knob sometimes is glued to the skin, to the vinyl up inside the head. And you're welcome to pass that around and see. I don't think you can tell on this particular one.
Oh, it looks like it has.
But see, up inside that hole, inside there is where it was glued. And I think a piece came out. She was actually, when they punched the hole for the head, it didn't pop the vinyl completely out. And that little disc was still attached to the neck knob. So she was actually a pain to get apart. And I ended up ripping out the neck knob, which that's another thing we'll talk about, because that's actually a very, very easy fix. People freak out, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Because sometimes the neck seam here will be cracked a little bit. It'll just be separated. And even the heat from the water, the heat from a heating pad or a hair dryer, whatever you're using, will heat up the knob. And it's just plastic, just like the rest of her. That'll heat up, and sometimes it'll pop out. The easiest thing to do, boil yourself a little saucepan full of water, take some tweezers, dip it into the water for 10 seconds, and then usually it's cool enough for your fingers to touch the neck knob, but you're able to, it's pliable enough to pop it back in. The one thing to be careful on is I don't have any neck knobs here. I had some in the room, but I totally forgot to bring them. There's a little spot, because Jem's head only goes so far. There's a little divot in that neck knob that corresponds with a little pokey inside of her neck. And as long as you line up that, she's the way she's supposed to be. One thing I have noticed is when you take heads off of dolls, usually, I'm just going to go start the heat pad up. Usually they are, about 2 minutes to heat, that doesn't take long. What was I saying?
Take off the
neck
heating
knobs,
pads.
they usually
The neck
are.
knobs, yes. They'll usually, like I said, you force it back in again, it'll pop right back in. Sometimes when you take the head off, that's what I was saying, you will notice that the head will be a little looser than it was originally, and that could just be due to the fact that it's not glued onto the knob anymore. She's pretty sturdy. The hair is kind of heavy, so that's kind of makes her a little floppier than she was. But obviously it will get cut a little bit and curled, because it's going to be a regime eventually. Okay, so she's here for Topher when he lands to do a little bit of styling with. But we're going to get her head off. While that's heating up, we're going to jump steps. Basically, to start a root, you're going to want to trim the hair down just as close as you can possibly get it. I don't want to make too much of a mess here in the room, so I'm going to try to hit this here. I have a thing about Jem. I don't like to ruin a perfectly good Jem doll. So I try to look for dolls that need hair help. Their hair's been mutilated, played with, or just faded, been cut before. Dolls that I don't mind necessarily trimming. I don't have as much affection for other brands of dolls, why this is not painful for me at all. But again, you get it, the whole hair.
Suffer, Barbie.
Yeah. You don't have to get too close. I mean, the only critical time for a really close shave is when you go to pull it out. And I won't cut her whole head. I'm just giving you a basic on I probably should. I'm going to be heating her head up over there, I guess. I'm going to have a mess, right? But I'm not going to cut it as close as I normally would, because we're doing this kind of fast. Miley Cyrus, everybody. I'm sorry. Anyway. All right, so basically, yeah, you just trim it as close to the head as you possibly can get it. It just makes it so much easier when you go to yank the hair. But I'm gonna show you guys a neat trick that's gonna save you time and finger pain to get the hair out. I know some poor folks that take tweezers and try to yank it this way, and you'll be there forever. Because sometimes it's glued, sometimes it's glued so tight in there, you're just gonna be pulling and yanking and your fingers will be dead by the time you're done. The easy thing to do, and again, we're skipping steps because of the heating pad. If anybody has a grandma that you were seeing doing tatting lace or doilies, they use these crochet hooks. Very, very small. My favorite one is the middle size, which is, what is that, the 6? That would be the 5. 5 is about perfect. To get up into the little corners and stuff, you may need one smaller. You've got to be careful with the smaller one because it's small enough to pop out the actual root holes that are already in the head. And if you do that, sometimes it's hard to get back up again. I've been in that situation. You can, it's just I don't want to rip the vinyl. So basically, you take and put in, you take the crochet hook and you take it out from the inside. Now again, somebody without a crochet hook might start going in with tweezers and yanking, which it works. It does work if you don't have crochet hooks, but only a couple of bucks gets you the easiest method because they're rounded, they won't tear anything, and you just get a hold of it. And you start scraping around the inside of the head, and out she starts to come. Now my method, I will pull, see how it's disappearing? That's my favorite part. I watch from the outside as I draw the hook, kind of like this, on the inside of the head. It's like you're peeling, exactly, like you're peeling an orange, and you watch the hairs pop in from the outside, and that's how I know stuff's getting done. So I'll do that for a while. I'll concentrate on one section that I want to do, and then just to save effort, I'll start, picking it around, and that's when the tweezers and stuff come in handy. My mom and my father.
How do you do it?
And Moonlighted. And Sophie, that's Sophie, it's my sister. My sister Sophie.
Hello.
We'll say hi.
It's okay. And that's when you start up with tweezers. A lot of times I'll root with a flashlight right here, because once there starts to be holes to see, you can actually put it up to the light, and you can see inside the head and kind of see where you've missed and see where the tufts of hair are that you haven't quite gotten out yet. Another tool that I say is probably a must-have for rooting is forceps. If you have a medical supply store, bait and tackle shops, because you use them to tie flies, it's been just invaluable. I happen to live in a town with big fisherman population, and they're excellent because you can get right in there, you can mag right on it. They're tiny little tips that you can get anywhere you need to be. You can twist it, pull it, rip it out, have a good fly. And again, as long as you don't catch the vinyl inside, which I've never done, so it's
They're useful in other model work too.
They certainly are. They certainly are, and it's good for dipping the plastic parts, like Monster High. When you get a Monster High doll and her hand's been jacked up with that elastic for so long, it's out of shape. Let's say my Laguna was like that. Her hand was all, her little cute little symbol was all, like the hang ten symbol was all like bent up backwards. I'm like, oh. Dip it in hot water for maybe 5-6 second count. It returns to shape, just where the mold was when it came out of the factory. So, hi guys, that's okay. Land wherever you want to be.
Pull out if you need to sit over here near.
Nope, fine.